Here's a segment from this month's edition of St. Charles Parish Today, a new monthly local talk show. With the advent of Facebook, smartphones, and constant internet access, real-time data on just about any subject is available with the push of a button or the click of a mouse. For parish workers in the field, getting information about their surroundings can be useful or even critical, from the placement of gas lines before digging to the zoning classification of a given parcel of property. That's where Luis Martinez comes in. As Geographic Information Systems Coordinator, he's been tasked with creating maps attached to databases containing this information and more, for use by parish employees and the public at large. With the help of various departments, information is added to the parish's mapping on a constant basis, making it an interactive treasure trove of data. Luis is with us today to talk about this major undertaking. Thank you very much for coming on the show to talk about GIS.
Well, thank you for having me.
So this is a tool that can be used for almost endless applications. Can you explain briefly why it's so important for parish government and what it is?
Well, GIS, like what you mentioned earlier, GIS stands for Geographic Information System. And what GIS is essentially an electronic system of hardware and software that can be used to integrate, manipulate, store, and analyze geographic data. GIS is similar to traditional paper maps, but rather it's stored in a digital format, which allows us to store very specific information pertaining to features on the ground. So just like on paper maps, you have points, lines, and polygons that can represent structures, roads, and maybe bodies of water. GIS has the information that we call attributes tied to those specific features that we can actually retrieve from the database and create provide better informed decisions for the parish based on the pertaining to its infrastructure and the services that the parish provides. What makes GIS such a valuable tool is actually it allows us to look at data in a spatial dimension. So parish departments are able to look at their data in a way that they've never looked at it before. And so they can actually ask questions and solve problems based on the data that the GIS provides them. So, for example, you can look at the relationships between different features on the ground and other things that might go unnoticed that's revealed by the GIS.
What are some specific areas that you've been able to use GIS to improve efficiency in parish government?
Well, we've actually been able to incorporate GIS in many of the parish projects, major projects at that. Some of the ones that we're focusing on are the storm protection and drainage. And we're able to integrate different components of, the GPS, which Global Positioning Systems, GIS, and other hardware to collect information based on its geographic location that pertain to the wastewater, waterworks, and drainage infrastructure. So instead of actually manually going out, recording things on paper and coming back into the office and having to transfer everything, we collect data on these data collectors that we've created a program, a software with, that tie back into the database, and it feeds live to the actual department. So they can actually, the different department managers or decision makers, even some of the data that we provide parish residents can see, is updated live. As it's put into the GIS, it actually is fed live and streamed onto the other computer systems throughout the different departments in the parish.
Wow, so it really is a living document.
It is, like I say, it's a living and breathing animal. If you don't, garbage in, garbage out. So you actually have to maintain the data sets in order for it to be a useful tool.
Right, exactly. So how can GIS information about the parish contribute to emergency planning or maybe any other outside projects?
Well, one of the things that we've actually worked on just recently is looking at previous water or flooding levels of water in the parish based on Gustav, Ike, and even some tide gauge information from Katrina. And we've been working with LSU and the National Hurricane Center and tying that information into the AdCirc model. And with the AdCirc model is a little different with the slosh models they've used before, where it actually includes a lot of the GIS data that we've collected and provided them, and it adds a component of friction to that model, which actually is surprisingly accurate when you look at the results from the Gustav and Ike models. So what we're trying to do is actually develop some type of outreach program which we can inform parish residents on, things pertaining to the storms, so they won't take it as lightly in the event of another disaster.
Right, and that slosh model, just for people who may not know, can you explain it really briefly?
Yeah, well the slosh model actually looks at storm surge data, and it looks basically at differences in elevation. So it really doesn't include, to my knowledge of it, I've done more with the adcirc but not the slosh, but it doesn't really include the component of friction. It's just basically a straight slope from one elevation to another. Well, what differentiates that from the adcirc is where you actually, we've actually created GIS data for building footprints, and the water actually flows around the buildings and through trees, wetland forests, and different types of features on the ground, which will significantly change the results on the other end.
So it's slosh, but basically a lot more accurate.
It's a lot more accurate and a lot more, it's a more robust model. It actually takes a lot more time to run.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what can we expect for our viewers out there if they want to go to the parish website? What kind of information can they get on GIS for the parish?
Well, we've got some information up there right now. Some of the data, particularly the parcel data, is a little bit out of date, but we've developed a web-based GIS application that the parish residents can actually interact with, and it's all theme-based. So they actually select things, a theme, let's say planning, for example, and they can actually go and get information based on zoning, different zoning categories, parcel information, and we even just recently added the new FEMA's, the flood maps. So they can actually type in their address and it'll take them to their location, to their specific address, or their address of the location of their home, and you can actually get that information digitally in a visual format. So that's what really makes it, I guess the ability for the parish residents to see information like this, or it makes them to interact with the data, is what our goal is.
Right.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We've also, for example, like the trash bash stuff, we've also, we plan on, making this a little more available to the public, put it out more in people's face, I guess, a little bit, but we've been able to actually track it for the past 2 years, and we're looking at identifying problematic areas where you see a lot of garbage on the road. So, we can look at that, just a simple piece of data that can identify trends or patterns of trash that's being dumped around the parish. Right,
and I want to mention too, if people want to go ahead and see that map, they can go to the parish website. On the front page, GIS is a link in the top right corner.
Yes.
So, and anything else you'd like to add about GIS and what you do?
Well, not really. I mean, I guess we're working on updating the data, which is one of the main reasons you don't see a lot of the information available on the GIS webpage. But in the near future, the residents can actually expect to see a good amount of maps and data that's going to be available to them in the terms of interactive web-based applications and PDF documents, maps, like static maps that they can actually download and use to whatever they like.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming on the show and talking about this interesting subject.
All right, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Catch the entire episode right here on Channel 6, daily at 5 p.m., or watch anytime at scptoday.com.